I've been a little bit nervous about this next bit because, Keith, I apologise because I know you won't appreciate what's about to happen, but we would like to honour you as a network for your contribution to pastoring, principalship, mentoring that you've done for decades in our network. And I'm happy that you're just sitting there and you're out of the spotlight a little bit, but I want to honour you. We want to honour you. For those who may not know Keith, has a lovely wife, Margaret, 3 kids, 9 grandkids. He is a keen sportsman, but as you get older, it's he's a walker at the moment, but keen sportsman in his time. But Keith is passionate about helping Christian leaders. He's about helping Christian leaders develop spiritually, personal maturity. So it's really about who they are in their ministry and their service. So when he writes about this stuff, let's take note of it. And so this evening, as I said, we just want to honour you, Keith, for what you've done in that space. And I know there's someone here, Peter Wakely, where are you? Let's get a microphone to Peter. Peter, Keith mentioned that he was pastoring at Epping, and Peter was actually in that Epping church under Keith's pastoral leadership. Can you just give us an insight into Keith, the pastor?
Yeah, I'll do my best, okay? And I'm also, like you, Andrew, aware that Keith will find this very uncomfortable. But we want to bless you, and this is part of being that we've been hearing about. Keith and Margaret, and as you said, Andrew, their family were at Epping Church of Christ from 1971 to 1978. Hope I'm right with those. Yes, good. And I've been a part of the Epping Church of Christ since I was a very young boy. And in 1971, I was a very shy 14, 15-year-old teenager. And I and so many others at Epping am so grateful to you, Keith, for your ministry through those 8 years. So formative to me as a teenager growing into my early 20s. I remember listening to Keith preach. And Keith, or Mr. Farmer, as it was back then, spoke in a way I'd never heard before. Keith brought the scriptures alive with personal and life-related illustrations, explaining the life and ministry of Jesus and his interaction with people that was so real and so inviting and so grounded and so relevant. From Keith's preaching and Keith's own life and that of you and Margaret and your lives together as a couple in ministry, and as we watch you as a family with a young family, you made this Jesus, who we know is unique, but you made him not only unique, but you made it to me as a young guy, this Jesus is worth following. Yeah. This Jesus makes sense of life. And as I was reflecting on what I shared tonight, I realised that even unconsciously, it was years later when I went into college that, Keith, you were a part of my journey into college and then into ministry. And I'm incredibly grateful for that. In fact, Keith, your honesty and your vulnerability was also unique. And your themes that we've just heard about on the love and the grace of God were your themes back in the early 70s at Epping. And so nothing has changed. in 50 plus years. And you made the statement just at the end that I think it sums you up so well. People will follow Christian character for a lifetime. And Keith, you are such a beautiful example of a godly man who doesn't just speak but walks the talk about the love and the grace of God. So my mum and dad, no longer with us but in heaven, and my brothers had and have the highest regard for you and Margaret as a godly, wise, stable, honest, real, fun-loving couple. And even loving AFL in a rugby league town, okay? But you shaped our life for good and for God by your authentic way of living for Jesus under the grace and love of God. So Keith, hundreds and hundreds of people from Epping, if they were here tonight, would say, thank you, Keith. You have touched and shaped our lives through those 8 years when you pastored at Epping. We are incredibly thankful for what you gave, knowing now much later that it was very tough at times. And Sonia and I are so grateful for you married us. And I had with Rick the privilege of 1 year where you were our principal at Carlingford. And I've been blessed to have you as a mentor for many years. Thank you, Keith Farmer.
Thank you, Pete. So as Peter touched on, Keith's next journey out of local church ministry was into being the principal of what is now known as ACOM. And he was the principal for 24 years. Can I ask you, if you did any study in the 24 years where Keith was principal, could you stand where you are? Look at that. And that's just those who are in this room. So some of those standing, I know I've had a chat with a few of you, would like to just share something about Keith's role as principal. So who wants to put their hand up for that? Dennis, there we go. Please have a seat, guys, thank you.
Okay, Keith,
right
this is your
you.
life. I had the pleasure of working with Keith in the college for 18 years. And the one thing I learned, well, two things, three things, maybe four things I learned.
We don't have all night, Dennis, not all night.
The first was that Keith's a visionary. He and I both came through the same system. We had 3 years in college together, so we've known each other for a long time, and we were taught a form of theological training that was dead while we were learning. Is that all right, Keith? And we learned more in the first 3 months that we got out than we learned in the 4 years in college. So when Keith came as the principal, he was going to make sure that that didn't happen to the generation that would be trained in college under his leadership. And so he set about introducing a model which ACOM still uses today. It's the instruction, action and reflection model that ACOM still uses to this day, and he was the one that put it into place, and it's worked. It was under his leadership that the internship model started. It lapsed for a while, but it's back. So he also introduced formation into the college. Now, this was not something that we had. I remember the day he came to me and he said, I want you to teach spirituality. And I very handsomely said to him, I teach New Testament. I don't know anything about spirituality. And so but that's where it began. So the whole model then was adapted to make formation an essential part of the training of every student that went through Carlingford and still applies in ACOM today. So it's very forward-looking. We always knew, those of us on faculty, that how good the day Keith was having by how early he made a trip to the Coke machine. Though if it was at 9 o'clock, we knew it was a bad day. Not only, and the other thing about Keith was he always had the pastoral heart. Diane Feeney and I, we were the iron fist. But Keith would always calm us down, and the pastoral heart would come out, and of course Keith would win, because we would realise that we were just being too hard. And so Keith set a kind of a tone in the college that most of the students took upon themselves. Now, next week I'm going to spend 3 days with our next student, John Sutton. And we were talking about Keith when John was up here a few weeks ago. And he had that reflection, that Keith was kind, gentle, but firm. So as I look back over the years, and as I look, I'm still connected with the college, and as I look at the college now, it is a reflection of what Keith started in between 1981 and 1986. It's carried on for how long? Nearly 40 years. This model that he put in place. Not only that, he had a broader vision. And we end up having ministry centres in Taree, in Lismore, Wollongong. We entered into a relationship with the Wollongong Church through Keith and Barry McMurtry that became part of the college. It was just a vision that spread, and we're thankful for it, Keith, and God bless you.
Yeah. Thank you, Dennis. So you can see the impact Keith has had is significant, but I think maybe the most significant impact he's had is his 17 years of mentoring. Many people across the country, many people in this room, and there's two people I'd like to invite just to speak to this. Karen Gould, could you... Karen, yep. Would you like to share a few things, please?
Hi, Keith. I know you hate this. But I'm here to speak on behalf of Coast Community, who you've been our team mentor for. Ranucci thinks it's 15 years, so I'm going to go with that because I've only 10 years. So, but this is to express just how significant and impactful your mentoring has been to us as individuals, but also as a team. I reached out to the team that I could contact, both past and present, and asked them to share some reflections. And I was overwhelmed by how much appreciation and love for you there was. I was overwhelmed on your behalf, and I will get everybody's reflections to you, but I just picked my favourite. I hope it's your favourite. But this encapsulates all everyone's sentiments pretty well. And I think once I start, you will know whose this is. Here we go. Keith, if you were a picture, more specifically a tree, it would be an oak of righteousness, a planting of the Lord to display his splendour. Over the many years, Keith, you have stood strong, roots anchored in truth, and have withstood the test of time, the hardships and the storms. Your ability to remain unwavering, together with Margaret, has been such a gift to the kingdom of God. Your humble posture of servanthood and choosing to serve leaders and pastors by walking alongside them has not only been life-giving, but a godsend to us personally and our team. Your poker face and your ability not to flinch at the most bizarre story or account has served you well, and you have always erred on the side of gentle gracious and loving, not a hint of judgment or casting a stone. So thank you for being approachably you, for the safe space you have created so that we could feel safe enough to be honest with our hard stuff, authentic with our feelings and emotions, and have also given us space to hope and dream. You have breathed wind into our sails, and the church is a healthier place because you have shown us what authenticity looks like. So Keith, oak tree of righteousness, thanks for letting us shelter under your shade. Thanks for your long obedience in one direction and for your long standing and resilience. We are grateful for the way you and Margaret have gone before us and revealed a vision of what discipleship looks like in all the seasons. It's a vision that inspires us to keep your legacy alive as we journey in ministry to help others seek first his kingdom. So grateful that God has blessed our life with your friendship and want to honour you for the way you have allowed God to shape and form your life for the sake of others. We're praying that we will also be oak trees in time and want to say thank you for all the seeds you have sown into our lives. So from the bottom of our collective heart, bless you and thank you for loving us well.
One more. Mr. Barry McMurtry.
Funny man. I'm Barry Tremacki, yeah. Not Barry McMurtry. I think, Keith, I first heard you preach at a Margaret Street Church of Christ anniversary service in October 1987 or 8, somewhere around there. And at that time, I think I was either an accountant or studying to be an accountant, and I knew that God had called me into ministry, but one of your friends had counselled me and said, at the age of 18, don't go to college yet, do some business degree and work as an accountant. And I remember before I went to college, because I was from Queensland and lived in Queensland, I really sought God on where to go to college and which one would I go to, and I did the big leap and came south of the border. And I remember in my second year of college, I had my little red Toyota Corolla parked in the college car park, and one day I got called into the office, into your office. And you had a confession to make. Do you remember what that confession was? No? I do. Keith had parked his car beside mine, but in the process had bumped into mine. And he had the integrity to tell me that that's what he'd done, and that he would pay for it and get it all fixed up, and he did that. I think that that epitomises Keith, a man of character, a man of integrity. Keith, I could talk for a while because I'm a preacher, but I just want to say thank you for your mentoring. I think you mentored me for a period of 12 or 13 years, and you've seen me at my worst and you've seen me at my best. And I just want to say thank you on behalf of all of those that you've mentored for your wisdom, your love, your grace, your insight, and just the way that you have cheered on pastors and leaders, and the longer I get, we caught up the other day, and the longer I get to know you, the more I am aware of just how deep your love and grace is. As I've been reading your book, I'm halfway through, and I go, just like you, Andrew, man, I wish I had known this. And what's happening in me is there's a transformation happening in me as I read, and I go, wow, I can see where I was like that and like that and like that. So I want to encourage you all, grab the book. If you're open to keep growing, you will grow heaps as you take it in. So thank you, Keith, for your ministry.
It's nearly over. Are you going to forgive me? No, he shook his head. A few of us today have had the chance to be in a space where you can bless another person. And so I've just asked Edwina now if she can just pray a blessing on Keith as we wrap this time up.
Could everyone stand while we do this? And I'm going to come over here. I'm not going to look at you because I'll cry. I want to pray, but you've been my principal, my mentor, and my friend. And I know so many people would have the same thing to say, so I'd like to pray, and we're all going to pray. Lord, I just want to thank you. All of us want to thank you for this man. Both Keith and Marg together have just sown into your kingdom in ways I don't think we will ever truly understand. Lord, today we've talked about the difference between productivity and fruitfulness, and this man here is exactly that, just a fruitful life. Lord, I thank you that he hasn't slowed down in his fruitfulness, and that even, he's writing and these new seasons of still sowing into us as really his students that we will always be. Lord, I thank you for him. I thank you for his family. I thank you for his faithfulness. And I know that that is not over. And Lord, I just know that today has been uncomfortable, but we're so glad for the gracious, humble man that he is. And we just ask a blessing on him and a blessing on Marg as well. We just thank you and praise you. And to everyone said, amen.